Hey everybody, I'm going to do some more reading from this book, Jitterbug Perfume. Here we go. Ready? Alright. Where did we leave off here? Prayers and rapidly diminishing sparkle of the morning star. Alright, here we go. Those whom Abbar governed were a blonde race. You know what? I don't have enough light here. Hold on just a moment. I gotta turn that light switch on back there. I don't know why I didn't think of that first. Much better. Those whom Abbar governed were a blonde race, of such recent northern origins as snow trolls and mystical red toadstools still figured in the tales of elders told around the fires. Although the king himself, save for that morbid filament he had drowned in the spring, was on the dusky side. Wren, the daughter of a southern chieftain, slain in battle by Abbar's predecessor, was even duskier, the only dark meat in the king's larder. Some of the warriors joked. The only dark meat in the king's larder, some of the warriors joked. Her cousin, jeez, where did I get her cousin from this? Her correlation, coloration, her coloration, she was colored. Her coloration was one reason he favored her. More importantly, however, he loved her good sense. Although in that place, in that time, good sense was considered no more a virtue in a wife than love in a king. Alma's advance advertising must have been effective, for Wren's arrived in the royal chamber already nude and lathered, wine in her cheeks. Thus she was surprised to find her husband fully clothed, sitting with his hound on the great bear rug at the foot of his bed. I'm sorry, my lord, she stammered. The veneer in her veins pressed a more ruddy grape. The vintner in her veins pressed a more ruddy grape. It was informed that you had summoned me. That I did, dear Wren. Please come sit by my side. Well, all night, of course, but first let me fetch my robe. I've left it in the antler room. Smiling at her decorum, Abbar started to detain her. Even in his agitated mood, he could admire his walking flower of intelligent pink, this industry of honey and brine. But the image of the hair cast its shadow, and he allowed her to dress. He petted the dog. So you plucked it? She said, after he had related the events of the previous day. Yes, I did. Plucked it? Yes, but why? I hope that you could help me answer that. Wren shook her head of skunk black curls. She appeared puzzled. No, my lord, I think not. I have never met nor heard story of one who so resisted fate. Surely I am not the first, said Abbar. If so, I must be a madman as well as a coward. Oh, neither, my Abbar. Then what? He watched dispassionately while Meek got up, yawned, stretched, and lumbered to the far corner of the room to relieve himself. Tell me, Wren, what do you believe awaits you after you die? Awaits me? Me? Wren? I have never pondered what death might hold for this one person. Born Renna of Pindus, now Wren of Abbar. Death is not a personal matter, is it? It is the business of the clan. Our clan is responsible for maintaining the community of our race against the terrible whims of heaven and earth. And since the clan is weakened by the loss of one of its members, any death can be an ordeal for the whole. The king nodded. No gray hair nodded with him. Though not having viewed himself that morning, he could not be certain of that. which explains why our people hold such an elaborate and energetic funerals. We entertain the immortals in order that they might be persuaded to help us recover the strength and unity stolen from us by death. However, and this occurred to me only last night, and I lay abed undreaming, the clan usually succeeds in closing that breach death tore in its defenses. But what of the one who died? In some religions, they believe that he will pop up again in springtime like a crocus, but never have I observed such a blooming. In the past, I have thought, I shall entrust myself to whoever is more powerful in the next world, the gods or the demons. Yet now, my own speedy demise is rising possibility. I do not willingly submit to playing the part of prize in otherworldly tug-of-war. Is this blasphemy, my lord? I think not. Those who crafted me, be they gods or demons, crafted this mind that shapes my resistance to their schemes. Surely they were wise enough at the wheel where I was thrown to anticipate future resistance in the heart they were a building. Abbar looked at her hopefully. Can you not agree? Wow. Listen to that. I'm going to reread that. This is a really good one right here. This is a good nugget. Those who crafted me, be they gods or demons, crafted this mind that shapes my resistance to their schemes. Surely they were wise enough at the wheel where I was thrown to anticipate future resistances in the heart that they were a-building. Wren placed her own soft hands upon Meek's coat. At her touch, the huge round hound seemed almost to purr. I can neither agree nor disagree. I came here with the dawn a quarter asleep, expecting to have my furrow plowed, only to have you sow in my mind such strange ideas. She gave her fingers to Meek so that he might affectionately wet them. Perhaps, said Abbar, I ought to turn to the necromancer for advice. No, no, Abbar, do not, please do not. Indeed, why? This is hard for me to express, my lord, but I shall try. The king of your ancestors have been celebrated around many a bonfire, but the celebrated for cunning and for brawn, wisdom, true knowledge has been the province of the necromancer alone. You have changed all that, and Nog does not like it. You must forgive what I am about to say, for in fact, there are men inside these city walls more powerfully built than you, Abbar, more adept with the spear. Men who can run faster, hurl a stone further, face an awesome enemy with an equal absence of trembling, and pacify a harem with a sturdy shaft. But you, while I cannot imagine how you acquired it, you have a brain. Time and time again, you have demonstrated your unusual ability to see inside of men and to interpret the silent pleas they aim at the stars. In the past, many kings have ruled his people. Those have governed them, or you have governed them. Governed? It's a Hellenic word. Hellenic? Abbar closed his eyes and thought of what he had heard of the Hellenic city-states far to the southeast near the edge of the earth. How glorious they were rumored to have been. How wealthy and learned and profound of the arts. Long ago, northern tribes, not unlike his ancestors, had sacked them. What good was righteous governing if rough people could come along and will and chop you up? Rough people could come along at will and chop you up. A Hellenic word meaning to exercise a directing influence. That you have done. The heroics of past rulers only kept your kingdom in a state of agitation. You have claimed it, and Nog resents you for that, because as a result of your reasonable leadership, the necromancer is less necessary and less admired. I am not surprised. There is a limit to the admiration we may hold for a man who spends his waking hours poking the contents of a chicken with a stick. Divination has its worth. Yes, and so perhaps does the elimination of time-trapped kings. Yet rebellion stares within me this daybreak. I appreciate your warning about Nog. Were to tell him, Nog is the necromancer. It's like shortened. Or that's his name, maybe. Were I to tell him what I am about to tell you, dear Wren, I would be dining on bitter egg ere the moon is ripe. I have seen kings bite that egg, watch them turn green as ivy leaves and flap about their yard like freshly beheaded fowl, and all the while the populace onlooking as if it were at a bear and dog match. Now, in the eyes of the stars, men may be no more exalted than beasts, and kingly men no worthier than the wretched. Well, forgive me. Perhaps the sap of that silver hair has made me drunk from inside my skull. But I am seized with desire to be something more, something whose echo can drown out the rattle of death. As Wren blinked her bituminous lashes at his queer behavior, Abbar stood disrobed and turned slowly around and around before her like a prime merchandise at a slave market. Save for the occasional phosphorus mark where some blade had stung him, his body was smooth and tan, braided with muscle, supple, quick, neither as massive nor as hairy as many warriors who had marched behind him. His chestnut mane was chopped an inch below the ears. His beard was shaggy and full, less prominent than her own southern model. Maybe there is simply more to whiff in tropic climes. Maybe there is simply more to whiff in tropic climes. His nose was banded at the bridge with a ribbon of scar tissue. His eyes, bright as torches in an ice cave, were so blue they seemed on certain days to bleed into the sky. Abbar's mouth, what could be glimpsed of it through his whiskers, was thinner than the meaty mouths of his fellows, and at that same time less crude. It reminds Wren of her late father's mouth, and she admired it most of all. On several occasions, in his company, she had come within a pucker of discovering kisses. Because kisses hadn't been invented yet. When he had completed his exhibition, he planted a palm against each of his jowls and said in a voice both defiant and shaky, "This man before you is part of the community, the race, and the species, yet it somehow separate from them, and is somehow separate from them. That notion shocks you, I can see, but, Wren, I cannot tolerate the passive obliteration of all that I am to myself. My deeds have not been so small that they will never be recalled around the fires, yet that fails to satisfy my longing. My life is not merely a public phenomenon, it is a solitary adventure as well." He slapped his thighs. "It is with difficulty that I imagine this familiar body gone cold. These limbs, this trunk, the heart that drums, they urge me, against all my training, to prevail over submission to the collective destiny." Wren's mouth opened as tentatively as a mollusk shell. "Vanity?" she asked. A wife, even in shock, she made certain that it was less of an accusation than a query. "Vanity?" "Vanity, I am unsure. It feels different from vanity. If I be but vain, then the demons will kick my ghost from pit to pit. In my defense, I can say only this. I have fought for my people and would fight for them again. Let them name the foe. But I am not ready to have them place the crown on another's noggin, though his be a yellow as sulphur as mine, whiter than any winter drift." For a long while, Wren sat quietly poised as if she were a blood dropped on the point of a dagger. Then she said, "You seem to value my opinion, my lord. This then I say to you. It would be painful for me to pass you the poison. I would ache should I find your body still and icy, even though it meant that our clan might easier endure. Your words puzzle me no end, but I trust you as I have trusted no other, save my father. If survival through deception be your wish, then I shall endeavor to support the deceit Most assuredly, I shall refrain from any mention of it. It is no major deceit, unless my parents lied. I have lived through the but 37 feasts and feasts of feasts. I remain young and able. No matter what that treacherous hare did shout, again he slapped his thighs. Then all at once the bluster drained out of him. Ah, but, Wren, you may not have long to guard our secret. I have observed the habits of hares, and before many mornings there will arrive another as colorless as the last, and another, like doves at a roost. Every single day I would have to regard my head in the looking-glass. Yet I cannot retrieve the glass from the concubines without raising suspicion. You are more than loyal, but there is a little use. He slumped down on the fur beside her. I will be your mirror, said Wren. He understood, and in gratitude embraced her until at length he felt his humor return. A slow smile bent back his foliage. I've been a mind to lay you down and split you like a rack of mutton. What would you say to that? You know very well what I would say. I would say those half-informed, half-crazed words that she panthers speak when in the delirium of her seasonal heat she is mounted by her mate. Abbar moved to shut the window against the beginning buzz and bustle of the city's day. Then he thought better of it and left it wide. It would be to his advantage, he reasoned, should the population overhear she-panther yowls emanating from his chamber. She-panther yowls. Days grew shorter. The citadel was hidden by morning fogs. Beets resembling the hearts of gnomes were piled in the storage cellars. Ducks lined up to bury their tickets to southern swamps. Mead was jugged, blades and leathers oiled. Wolves made clouds when they sang at night. Maybe that was where the fogs came from. Everywhere there were sounds of husks crackling, virgins dancing, the rush of bees on last-minute shopping sprees, the roar of altars ablaze with some sacrifice. King Abbar was likewise undergoing a seasonal change. True to her word, Wren was his mirror, and approximately once a week she discovered a white hare aspiring to colonize the shady hirsute shores. She drove it out promptly out of the neighborhood. Jeez. More pensive than ever, Abbar shared his thoughts with her. I think that I am seeking something, he confessed once as they stood alone in the western watchtower, overseeing from a bloodless distance the butchering of skinny beef. What I seek is neither spoils nor territory, new wives nor glory, nor, for that matter, merely a lengthened life. That I seek never was, not on land or sea. What she sought was to become something singular out of his singular experience, a labor as she might, Wren could not understand. If the notion of an individual resisting death for his own sake was foreign to her, as indeed it would have been to anyone in that millennial, the concept of the uniqueness of a single human life was alien to the point of babble. Preferring the chaos down to the cattle pens to her husband's God-offending nonsense, she shut it out entirely and yelled encouragement to the butchers. Yet Wren served Abbar in ways beyond the call of duty. In an attempt to prove his stamina, the king set up his harem like a starving rat let loose in a peach barrel. Night after night he rooted, rolled, and reamed. He climbed delicately upon Froll's swollen belly. He left Hoon and Helga complaining of soreness in their neither regions. He generated funky auroras around the bodies of Ruba and Mag. He gave Alma a taste of her own medicine. Each night, when he had done with one or the other of them, he would rub their noses, tug their blonde braids, and send them back to their quarters to fetch Ren, while Abbar, exhausted, lay beside her, panting and making imprudent comments such as, "Wives are wonderful, but why did I have to accumulate so many?" Ren would fake her lioness cries. Mornings, while he dreamed of the relative tranquility of war, she would fake them again. In time, the subterfuge shamed them both so deeply they could scarcely bear to look at each other. It was actually a relief when it was brought to an end. Nog, the necromancer, paid close attention to the king's activities. He had done so for years. He had chronicled Abbar's gradually declining sexual enthusiasm, so the desperation implicit in the sudden reversal was not lost on him. When he read verification of his suspicions in the intestinal text of several hens, he decided to see for himself. It so happened that on the morning that Nog stole up to the royal widow, after bribing a guard with a glass bead, Abbar and Ren were actually making love. Her phony demonstrations had excited him that dawn. After all, he cared for her above any other. So he had touched her stomach with uncommon tenderness, and soon her groans were being uttered in earnest. Disappointed, Nog was about to turn away when the magpie that rode upon his shoulder abruptly took flight and swooped into the king's chamber. Undetected as yet by the copulating couple, a long curly hair as bright as the icicle had flurried during the night in Abbar's beard. The magpie flew directly into the hair, pulled it free with its beak, and delivered it to the gizzard-stained hand of the magician. Following a full day of chanting, singing, and frenzied dancing by painted figures of animal suits, the execution took place at twilight. Awaiting his moral exit, Abbar sat on a bronze throne wearing, for the last time, a thick crown of hammered gold. In his lap he held the sacred turtle shell. The shell and crown rivaled the Egyptian looking glass in the hierarchy of the city's treasure trove. At precisely the moment that the sun eye winked behind the western hills, Ren stepped from a tiny hut of pine boughs, constructed for the occasion, carrying on an ermine pillow the smoking egg. Without missing a cue, as if she had rehearsed for days, she dance-stepped thrice around the bonfire, then up to the throne. Supposedly, the egg had been laid by a viper, although Abbar suspected it was the product of Nog's magpie. In any case, Ren lifted it gracefully to Abbar's mouth, and as the singers fell silent and the dancers froze, he gulped it down. Presently he commenced to writhe. His face turned the color of pine boughs. He toppled over, and green-tongued lolling thrashed about in the mud. Nog approached, recovered the crown that had spilled, and placed it upon the head of the young hero who had taken Abbar's place on the throne. Abbar kicked with both boots, then lay still. The new king flicked a dab of green foam off the throne. He raised the spear and smiled. Cheering broke out in the city, but it was short-lived because Meek lunged for the bronze chair and would have chewed off the occupant's leg had he not been restrained. No sooner was the hound muzzled than a new snarling began. This time it came from Froll, the 14-year-old concubine who's horrified the crowd by pulling the magic mirror from inside her maternity gown and smashing against the logs of the bonfire. Ooh, she destroyed it. The burial mound was outside of the city's walls, in a field dotted with cow pies and large stones. The stones had been arranged geometrically in patterns that were supposed to mean something to the gods. Presumably, the cow pies had fallen in a random, although then, as now, the division between that is random in nature, and what is purposeful is extremely difficult to determine. Warriors carried Abbar's body to the mound summit, where a shallow indentation had been dug. After the body was laid in the hole, the councilmen covered it with dirt. They sprinkled mead on the grave. They chanted an incarnation half as ancient as the stones in the field. Words arranged like the stones in sensuous patterns. Words that saber-toothed tigers may once have overheard. They were no tears, except the ones that Froll had shed back in the citadel yard. Death was not a weeping matter. The indentation is the mound top represented the navel in the great belly. Abbar was back where he had begun. Birth and death were easy. It was life that was hard. Abbar was back where he had begun, but not for long. As soon as the funeral procession had wound, imitating the undulations of the serpent, back through the gates of the city, ran from the shadow of an upright stone and started frantically to dig him out. Only 2 feet of earth lay over him, so he was soon uncovered. She had a vessel of mead concealed in her cloak, part of which she used to clean dirt out of his mouth and nostrils. The remainder she poured down his throat. A potent beverage, the mead gradually counteracted the effects of the nightshade belladonna that she had placed in the egg. Since belladonna, in small amounts, will slow heartbeat, it has helped Abbar feign death. Wren also had stuffed the egg with algae that she had scooped off the surface of a stagnant pond. It was the algae that had given the green cast to his skin. There had been no fatal poison in that egg, Abbar devoured, following a plan they had devised in a week between Nog's discovery and the execution ritual. When Wren had secreted Nog's death egg in her bodice while she waited in the hut, substituting an egg filled with the algae and the non-lethal dose of nightshade belladonna. Abbar was considerably dazed, but as soon as he demonstrated to Wren's satisfaction that his breathing was of sufficient velocity to billow the sails of his soul, she left him. I must return ere I am missed. I have to prepare myself to receive my new husband. The last she said matter-of-factly, but she rubbed his nose poignantly before fleeing. As dazed as he was, Abbar had the presence of mind to let his body roll down the slope of the burial mound, which was starting to be illuminated by a rising moon. He came to rest in shadow. He also came to rest in a more or less fresh cow pie. But he uttered no oath. I may be mad, he thought, but I prefer the shit of this world to whatever sweet ambrosias the next might offer. That's a good one. I may be mad, he thought, but I prefer the shit of this world to whatever sweet ambrosias the next might offer. He escaped death. Got out of there. He faked his own death. That's kind of cool. Like the first fake death in history or something. Yeah, tune in. The next episode coming up, right up, is the next one. I'll be reading some more. So I'll talk to you soon, or we'll get back to it soon. Goodbye.